Welcome to the Everything Paranormal Show. I'm Josh, and we're going to go ahead and get started today. I apologize for last week. We had some streaming issues. I don't know what happened, so hopefully it looks like everything's out there on the internet. I'm going to go ahead and record tonight's episode, so that way if something happens this time, I'll still be able to upload it, even though it won't be technically live at that point. So, all right, I hope you are having a good day out there today, or tonight, I should say. We're going to be talking, I wanted to talk to you guys about can ghosts make you sick? Can they cause you physical harm? And, or possibly kill you? I mean, these are questions that sometimes surface out there. People are always wondering, hey, and I know sometimes it can seem kind of obvious when you look at these things, but you know, we're still going to cover that and maybe even explain how they can do these things. So first of all, let's kind of cover ghost sickness. Now, ghost sickness can be a little different according to some Native American tribes. I believe it's the Navajo. There's a few tribes that have, or they believe in ghost sickness. Ghost sickness is really when you are, or as they define, basically when you kind of get caught up in the afterlife, or obsessed with life after death, or ghosts, spirits, things like that. So that's about the gist of it. Again, I don't want to insult them, but that's about what their version of like a ghost sickness is. We're actually be talking about physical ailments. I would like to add that there is truth in that. I think that we can get caught up in the pursuit of death. Life after death is one of the greatest human mysteries, right? And I think it's just such a black hole. We tend to get caught up worrying or wondering about it. There's people out there, they're going to say, well, you know, if you're religious, you're just going to go straight to just find comfort in Jesus and God, you know, and that's fine. Some people say, don't worry about death, or some people say, hey, there's nothing, you know, they're just scientific. They're like, oh, there's nothing afterwards or whatnot. There's all kinds of, you know, answers to life after death, from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other. And somewhere usually in the middle, there's a bunch of us that kind of fall in that middle category, where we're maybe have some beliefs in a higher power, and we're still looking at possible other answers. I guess my point, what I was getting at, is that just be careful of, don't get caught up too much in the pursuit, because then you're going to miss out on life. And that's really the point of everything here on Earth, is just enjoying life on Earth. You know, when my wife and I was, you know, into the investigation part of things, and we were doing our investigations, and we met other investigators. You know, some of these investigators, they started doing investigations all the time, to the point where it's like they kind of get like a third shift lifestyle. They're doing these investigations at night a lot of times. You know, they like to do the lights out thing. You don't have to. You can investigate all times of the day. But again, a lot of these investigators, they'll work their jobs in the daytime, or they'll go do investigations at night. Then they, of course, you know, these investigations go till, God, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning sometimes. Then they go home, they sleep, then they got to get up late in the day. They got to review evidence, so sometimes they don't even leave the house. You just start to have a real inclusive lifestyle sometimes as an investigator. Trust me, like I said, my wife and I went through that. And like I said, it just seems like you're always either spending your time at night, reviewing a lot of evidence, those type of things. So don't get caught up in that. Try to find a good balance. You know, take some time out, enjoy the sunlight. Don't become a vampire, okay? Enjoy the sunlight, enjoy some life. Again, you have to find that balance. You know, don't just get everything's macabre and dark and death, and you know, don't get sucked up into that. I think that's a big lesson from them. That's what really that ghost sickness alluded to, is don't get caught up in the dead. Okay, so that's my take on it. All right, so now let's actually go to ghost sicknesses. You know, can they make you ill? The short answer is yes. Okay, and I'm sure if anybody has done investigations out there, if you've done them, or like I said, we've done them, or even if you watch them on TV, a lot of people that obviously are involved in the paranormal world, they love to watch the shows also, just for entertainment purposes. Like, hey, you know, some of this is fake. And anyways, so can it make you? And you see on TV, or like I said, if you've done it yourself, you've had investigators or even yourself have felt dizzy or headaches or things like that. So yes, they can make you sick. So you may start to ask yourself, well, how does that happen? I mean, do they like attack you? Do they go inside of you? I mean, what exactly is making you sick? Well, there's a couple different theories. One of the theories is kind of one of the things that I like to think about. My personal theory that I have crafted is you have to go to the energy side of things. Okay, I like to try to be a little scientific, mixed with my experiences, and try to combine that for you guys. So you have to go to, of course, the energy world. The ghosts, in my opinion, they are made up of a spiritual energy that we cannot detect. To this day, we cannot detect this ghost spiritual energy. So the actual energy in the spirit realm that these ghosts are in, the form of energy, is a spiritual energy that we cannot detect or see. This is part of God's law, but we cannot detect that. Now, the way that they interact in our realm, okay, for our physical existence, is our forms of energy they can manipulate. Okay, does that make sense? So they can manipulate our forms of energy. They can operate within the EMF, the electromagnetic frequencies, okay, the electromagnetic waves, those type of things. They are able to manipulate different forms of energy with frequencies and things like that. That's why they can manipulate your audio devices for recordings. That's why they can manifest. They can draw energies from batteries. It's all energy based in the energy world. So, with that being said, keep that in mind. Now, in our physical plane, we're going to discuss. I had a visual of some Indians. See, I tried to have some slides, but half the time I forget. As I'm talking, I start forgetting like the slides to change the slides. So just forgive me. Hang in there. If you guys know anything about ions, if you guys want to go back to science class a little bit, some of y'all like, oh no, science. On an atomic level, when you have the atom, okay, and there's electrons, right, going around these atoms, and they like to be happy. They like to be in an octet, right? So when we have when things get disturbed, when these atoms get disturbed from all kinds of different things in the environment, movement, all kinds of energy can disturb it, right? Well, if you have a net positive or a net negative, we have positive and negative ions, okay? Some of you in the ghost investigation business understand a little bit about the ions, and some people have tried to have ion meters and things like that. But remember, when these ghosts interact in our environment, when they manipulate the EMFs, when they interact with our environment, they can cause a negative or positive ion shift when that happens. Okay? So, let's talk a little bit more about that. Negative ions, for those of you who may not know, but negative ions are good for you. Okay, they're the ones that make you feel good. Some of you may have bought like the Himalayan salt lamps. You know, they talk about the negative energy that they put out, or the negative ions that they put out. So negative ions are good for you. Okay, positive ions are bad for you. Okay, and you can see this little thing I put up here that talks about some different things between positive ions that cause the cell damage, and that's just some of the things: illness, broken, wrinkled skin, all that stuff. So it can cause that. Some of that's long-term metabolism issues, things like that. So those are things that with ions can cause that. So during investigations, when ghosts are at their highest activity, if you're provoking, which you probably shouldn't do if you don't know what you're doing, or even just haunted places in general that have high amounts of activity, it's theoretically possible that when they manipulate energy, especially in a concentrated area, that you're going to get positive ions. Those positive ions can make you sick. They can cause dizziness, joint pain, things like that. So, if they did it in a concentrated area, I mean, how, I don't know if you guys have been on investigations, or if you watch on TV, sometimes they'll have these little areas where their EMF meter is going off, and, so there's times when they're manifesting or drawing energy from specific areas. And when they disturb those specific areas, it could cause these positive ions. I don't know to what degree, if they're significant enough, but in theory, that during these high intense investigations, that's when we seem to see people tend to get more sick. That's what I wanted to kind of explain as far as sickness goes. A lot of it to me has to do with these positive ions. I do see where it says, what do you think of the ghost boxes in general? What would you recommend to start for equipment? Now, when you talk about starting for equipment, are you just talking about what we're talking about equipment-wise for this, or are you just talking about what equipment would you start for in ghost hunting? It's a little different. It's always going to depend on your budget. It's going to depend on what you are trying to achieve, how serious you are. You can go ghost hunting with minimal equipment all the way up to very advanced equipment. Ghost hunting in general. So we'll deviate from our normal subject here that I was talking about with ghost sickness for a second, and we'll talk about that. I don't mind. That's how we are. That's how we do it on the live show. We just go with things that you might want to talk about. I guess the biggest thing for me is, obviously you're going to want a digital camera, for pictures. You're going to want a still camera for pictures. And I would obviously highly recommend an audio recorder. Okay, a digital audio recorder. As far as which brand, typically I would recommend you go on eBay and you try to find older ones. Some of the older Olympus ones, Panasonic. Lately I've noticed online, like on eBay and things like that, they have cost a little more because the older ones are in more demand for ghost hunting, and it's like people caught on to that, so they're charging more for these little recorders that normally would be like $10-15. Now they're like $175. All right, because my wife and I tried to look at some recently to update our recorders. We're like, hey, we got these older ones, but the only thing I would caution you on, there's going to be a balance, because, for example, my wife's digital recorder, the Olympus that she has, we can still plug it into the computer with Windows 10 and whatnot, and we can download the files. With my Olympus, I guess it's slightly older, and that one we plug in and we just can't seem to, it's outdated drivers, we just can't seem to get any files off of it, because I've actually got a few recordings on it, we just can't download them off of it. So that's definitely something that you want to consider when you're getting your digital recorders. And the reason why you want them a little older is because the newer recorders tend to have more noise canceling features, and you want to actually have some white noise. So again, you'll just have to look at some reviews, do a little bit of research on that. But and also, you should, when you do ghost hunting, you should at least go out with a second person. You really shouldn't do it by yourself. You can, but in all honesty, if you're going to go and start, like say you're going to start an investigation team, this is what I recommend, in all honesty. If you're an amateur and you've just been kind of like researching, watching TVs and dabbling in things, if you can, you should try to find a local team that's in existence and see if you can tag along and try to learn from people that's been doing it. Because you can watch my videos, and that helps, so don't stop watching them. But you can watch videos all day long, but until you get out in the field and actually do some of this stuff, that's when you're really going to learn. The problem is we're not just going out and playing like, we're not going out and camping like, oh, I'm going to go try camping for the first time. Okay? The problem is that there's some real consequences to this stuff. So you have to be careful. If you don't know what you're doing, you could get in, you really could spiritually get in trouble. Okay? I'm telling you, it's the best advice I can give you guys. If you can find an experienced team, tag along, learn from them, okay? Learn from them first, and then later on, if you feel comfortable enough, you've learned a lot, then if you want to start your own team, but again, still pictures and EVPs, the audio recorders, huge thing, okay? I appreciate the interaction too. So you're going to stay at the Lizzie Borden home. I mean, that's interesting. I have seen the Lizzie Borden home on some other TV investigations. I personally haven't, we haven't done that. My wife and I has done investigations down in the Panhandle of Florida, Central and Eastern Florida, like Southern Alabama, things like that. I am a huge believer in EVPs. The best evidence out there. Spirit boxes, I'm not 100% sold on them. There's something about the fact that they generate these random words, and I know that they try to make it where it would almost be paranormal to form particular words, or so I get it. It just makes me nervous when it comes to trying to have a scientific approach, I guess you'd say. But some spirit boxes, again, if you do your research, and there's a few that I'm looking at just to see and experiment with. I personally haven't done a lot with spirit boxes, to be honest with you. When my wife and I were at our prime time height in investigations, spirit boxes just really wasn't a thing. It wasn't just a technological thing. It was EVPs and video cams with infrared and those type of things. Your EMF detectors and those type of things. EMF detectors, I think, are a good thing as well. They're fairly cheap. You can get a good EMF detector, and I really believe that, again, ghosts, the spiritual energy itself cannot be detected. That's why if we had anything out there, we have a huge array of devices. Like, we have this whole spectrum, everything from cosmic rays to low frequencies, gamma rays, right? All these things, X-rays. we have all these different frequencies and energy, and we're able to measure and detect all of these different things. But yet we still can't sit there with one device and say, oh, there's a ghost, it's moving, there it is, I'm tracking it, there we go. We don't seem to have that. So it tells me, based on other research, that ghosts cannot be seen for a reason. There are a different form of energy. However, they do that spiritual form of energy does seem to be able to manipulate our forms of energy, and our forms of energy in different ways. That energy, it does seem to manipulate the electromagnetic frequencies. The biggest thing, just take some pictures, do your EVPs, maybe an EMF detector helps to kind of guide where some activity is. Now, as an option, okay, this is something that very few investigators use on a regular basis, but you can get an ion detector. They're not real common out there. I've seen a few of them. I've seen a few of them in action, and some believe that they're witnessing that ion change, and some people swear by it, and they say it's even more accurate in that sense of like a versus a EMF for detecting paranormal. Again, I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience with ion detectors, but I am a big fan of like I was just explaining to you guys earlier with the positive and negative ions. I do get how ghosts could disturb it. In theory, that's more of an after effect. And I'm glad that we could really have this discussion. Like I said, this is what this live show is about. Is, you know, we're going to start with a topic. We may end up on multiple topics. So, all right. So I think that hopefully that covers a little bit about what you're talking about. With wanting to know some of the equipment, those type of things. And as far as ghosts making you sick and protecting yourself, unfortunately, there's probably not going to be a lot of protection for it when you're in investigation. Because again, if they're manipulating the energy and it's causing that positive ion spike, and you know, then that might make you a little sick. Again, you're probably not going to really be able to protect against that. Although I am a big fan of crystal protection and things like that. That's another thing that my wife introduced me into, because she kind of helped elevate. I've had different paranormal experiences, and I've did research, and you know, it was something I dabbled in off and on, you know, since I was young. But when I met my wife now, you know, she's my soulmate, and when I discovered that she had interest in paranormal and she had stories, she actually again kind of elevated me to do more research, and we started a team. And you know, it was really because of her that I learned even more and went and researched and educated myself even more. She actually was my inspiration on all that. So so I really appreciate that. Well, anyways, she had got me into learning about crystals, which I completely underestimated. But you know, she had some personal experiences with them, and she explained to me some things. So ever since then, it was like I really started to use crystals as additional protection. Now, I will say, yes, I believe in God. I am a follower of Jesus Christ. I know in the paranormal world, that's like there's a lot of people out there that have walked away from God or Jesus, but I don't. I feel like all the research I've done, especially even lately, I've actually been closer to God. But so I have that protection, but as far as physical energy on Earth, I also have, for example, and I'll show you guys here. This is my clear quartz here. This is what I have. I keep this on me, and you know, this is programmed. You know, I cleanse it every once in a while and program it. So it's definitely something that you can use in addition when you're on investigations and things like that. Amethyst, those type of things are really beneficial to keep with you, to also give yourself a little bit of that barrier of protection. So, knock on wood, I personally had not really ever gotten sick on an investigation. But again, my wife introduced me to crystal protection early on, when we, like, back to almost one of our first investigations. So I don't know what it's like to investigate without that kind of protection, really. So yeah, so you started having ghosts interact with me when you're 16. We're scared of the years, learn not to fear the unknown. Well, and that's true. You know, you don't want to fear. Is there things to be afraid of? I mean, potentially, there's some scary things out there in the afterlife, really. I mean, when you want to look at the big picture of good versus evil, there's a cosmic chess match that's going on, and there is evil. There is evil spirits. So yes, technically there's some things to be afraid of, but I think if you believe in your protection, and you know, when you kind of know a little bit how to navigate, then yeah, I think, you know, that helps. I'm going to talk a little bit about one of our topics of, can they physically harm you and or kill you? Physically harm. Well, technically, when ghosts make you sick, that is physically harming you, right? But I guess, you know, I'm talking about, can they hurt you, right? Now, I have seen where ghosts, I think the way that they physically can harm you is by having stuff fall on you. I've seen where maybe certain ladders that were leaned up against things, or certain tools and things have fallen. I've heard about drills that have, you know, fallen on people. So yes, can they physically harm you? The answer is yes. Is that something that's going to be common? No. And it's not something you should truly fear. Okay, I've not really heard too many people that were just like, I'll just physically attack. Again, it's very rare for that to happen, so I don't want to cause fear in anybody. Again, definitely have your protection. So, but it can happen. Ghosts can physically manipulate things to happen. Ghosts can be very powerful. Now, I will say this. It's my belief, and based on experience, very powerful spirits, if you will, are typically not human. Now, when I say that, people automatically assume I'm talking about demons, but I do believe there's in between. And because I believe that there is demons, okay, we're talking about Satan's, you know, legion, and I also believe that they are evil spirits, which are the deceased Nephilim and other mutations that happened pre-flood. So those evil spirits can be extremely powerful. They've had thousands of years to work on manipulating energy. The best way I can put this is that I want you to think about this. Okay? Spirits, no matter what, demons, evil spirits, negative entities, trapped human souls, or, you know, spirits, whatever level, at all levels, there's a degree of difficulty for them to manipulate our energy. And some may argue that, but all you have to do is look at the occurrences. Okay, if ghosts could easily communicate or easily manipulate energy, basically, we would have we'd have a lot of occurrences all the time. Okay, I mean, if ghosts could manipulate energy easily, we would again have it on a regular basis. There'd be things flying around behind me right now, or things happening all over, if they could easily do it. So I do believe it's very difficult. Obviously, if a ghost is able to throw somebody, again, it probably took them a good bit of energy, but you typically don't see, if something like that happens, you typically aren't going to see somebody getting thrown just back to back, like just thrown around like some crazy movie. It don't tend to work like that. If you're shoved, pushed, thrown, basically pushed across the room, thrown across the room, it's usually a large energy, occurrence. Then typically maybe something else may happen a little after that, once they maybe gain some energy. It just depends on where you're at also, because you have to have the energy to feed. So you could be in a ley line. You could have somewhere that's surrounded by a lot of energy, and that may supply the ghost with enough energy to make things happen, maybe on a more regular basis. So again, these are just some theories. I know we've kind of talked a little bit across the board, a little bit about everything. But can a ghost kill you? I think that there's a couple ways that this could happen. One is, of course, when people are killed by ghosts, we don't know. We don't know because they're not able to come back and say, yeah, hey, this ghost jumped out in front of my car. But I think, one, yes, there's potential that a ghost could materialize, cause people to swerve off the road, crash, something like that. They thought they were avoiding somebody. I think that those are potential ways that ghosts could harm you and or kill you. Also, I do believe that, yes, there's going to be some of your possession, right? You're going to have some of your demons that will possess people and cause them to do harm upon others sometimes. I do believe in that. I think that can happen. Is it provable in court? Things like that. Oh, the devil made me do it, or, whatever. Or they think sometimes God made them do it, whatever. It's hard to say, but only they know that. There's only certain higher powers that's going to know that. But I do believe that it happens. So yes, they can make you sick. Yes, they can physically harm you. Yes, they could potentially kill you. But again, all of these things, very difficult, not always something that's going to happen. Okay, so I just don't want you guys to just go around and start fearing everything. I wouldn't say that I don't believe people. I think when people share their stories, if they were sexually assaulted by a ghost, or if they were injured by a ghost, I mean, anything like that, I'm not going to just say like, oh, that person's crazy, or I mean, I'm in the paranormal world. I'm in paranormal research. So I always think it's crazy when people involved in paranormal are like, oh, that's crazy. Like, you shouldn't be that way, because in the paranormal world, you have to be open to things. You're normally that type of person. Now, yes, I always have a degree of skepticism, but it's usually the type of skepticism for when I'm investigating, and I'm investigating like bumps in the night and things like that. What could be causing that? What could be doing that? But when people have experiences and they've experienced those things, I mean, it's important, that they are able to share those experiences in a safe environment. So, again, there's just too much bullying. There's too many things like that happen out there, and especially in the paranormal, because let's face it, the paranormal is not mainstream, right? Paranormal is not mainstream. So even though like half of America believe in ghosts, and we all love horror stories and all these things, and there's this tremendous amount of culture and business out there in America, there's definitely a business in it, right? But at the same time, it's still considered a little taboo or something. Like, you talk about ghosts around people, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you know, you're crazy or something, and they start labeling you sometimes. Sometimes people can be very judgmental. It does happen within the paranormal people themselves. Again, there's some paranormal people that are just like, this is how it is. And then there's some paranormal people like, I just don't believe that much. I guess it just depends. But for the most part, if you're involved in the paranormal world, you should definitely be open-minded. What is your thoughts about ritualistic sent spirits that are sent to hurt others, or on the same thought about astral projection attacks? Well, first of all, ritualistic sent spirits, you know, in my opinion, when people are performing rituals, because I believe that the spirit realm is multiple frequencies. This is how there's multiple spirit realms, is they're divided by frequencies. That's kind of sums up my theory. I can go deeper on it, but think of it like a radio station, right? You can tune on to a certain frequency and you hear beautiful stereo surround music, maybe not so beautiful music, whatever, but you can hear in stereo music, there's so many things happening all in that frequency. You can tune to another frequency and, you know, you can hear something completely different, blah, blah, blah. So, spirit realm is, in my opinion, because it's energy-based, I do believe that that's how God separated the spirit realms, was frequencies, so to speak. So, when people are doing rituals and things like that, and they're opening these portals and doorways, that's how I believe that they're allowing these other creatures to come through and, you know, interact on a different level. So, and in all honesty, Sean, I really think that, you know, one of the things I know that you try to do is you try to go in and shut things down, and that's awesome because that does help. Now, as far as astral projection attacks, are you talking about when people, when they do astral projection, they're getting attacked in the spirit realm? Is that what you're talking about? Yes. Okay, so you're talking about getting attacked while astral projecting. Okay, well, again, for those that may be watching, if you're watching, you don't quite know what astral projection is. Astral projection. So, in theory, what astral projection is people that are able to almost like meditate, and they're able to tune into that frequency, their spiritual body frequency, and they're able to sort of take their spiritual essence and pretty much enter into the spirit realm. However, I do believe there's still always going to be a binding connection back to the human body, because I don't think they can fully leave their human body. I think that there's a form of energy still connecting them, but they go into the spirit realm, so to speak. But now I believe that I've done a lot of thought on astral projection, and from what I see, there seems to be some, you know, I've seen a variety of people that do astral projection that seem to have a very positive experience, and from what I can tell, it seems like a lot of them seem to be almost in like where human spirits may be roaming or maybe trapped. The ones that avoid going into the white light. Okay, if you follow me on that. So when a human spirit avoids the white light to be judged or to go to the next step, a lot of times are in this particular spirit realm. And it seems that seems to be where a lot of people are astral projection. I don't know if maybe that's because that could be the closest frequency. In the cable business, we have certain TV channels that are, because of their frequency, they're very close to like FM frequencies, and they can have interference and stuff. So in theory, it could be one of the closer frequencies, because that could be that first initial step when you enter into the spirit realm before you go into the white light. So with that being said, I feel like it's possible that if people are astral projecting and they're getting attacked, it's possible it could be going into another frequency with not so friendly spirits. So I think it's possible. I do. I'm not a big fan of astral projection. I think you're playing with fire when you're doing things like that. You know, that's just my opinion. Again, I'm not trying to down anybody that does astral projection. I just think you're playing with fire. And, you know, you really shouldn't be going into those type of places. You know, and I don't care if they say, oh, it's safe. Playing with your spirit body, it's not safe in my opinion. Okay? I'd just rather keep that all together. All right, with my body and spirit and soul, just keep all that together. Of course, you know, your spirit and soul are together. Only God can separate that. So you do have to leave. All right, Lady Luck, we'll see you next time. I hope you're able to. I don't know if you stuck around and heard that, but yeah, I do appreciate the question, Sean. I hope that answered your question. You know, for those of you, if you get a chance, check out Sean Carter, by the way. I'll just give another plug because he's such a cool guy. He's a pastor. We did a show together. Go back and check it out, Religion and Paranormal. And but he's putting together like some really cool stuff. I think I even saw where he's putting together what was it you were putting together? They do like prayer walking and ritualistic investigation, things like that. It's really cool. You ought to check it out if anybody's near him or whatnot. Definitely check that out. Like I said, he's a cool guy, and he really understands that whole balance of what the investigators are out there doing, but he's also there on the religious side to kind of help make sense of things and maybe steer you clear of some things. Yes, the Kingdom Impact Team. That's what I knew it was like right there on the top of my head. I was like, oh, what was I just saw that? I was like, I just saw it on Facebook the other day. Or yeah, I think I just saw it today, and I was like, oh, what was it? But yeah, I was reading a little bit about that, and it seems really cool. So you guys should definitely check that out if you're in his area. So we've been streaming for close to an hour here. So if you guys have any other questions, go ahead and pop them up in the chat right now as I start to wrap up. But I mean, as always, guys, I'm so glad I got the stream finally. I know it's been a few weeks. I apologize. But stay tuned. We're going to do more streams. Like I said, I'm going to keep trying to do them weekly for you. And again, the type of participation that you guys have shown me tonight was awesome. And I would love to continue to do that and have some of these open forums and theories and discussions. As you can tell, we go off the rails. We like to I like to just kind of mix it up, and sticking with one topic is fun sometimes. But I mean, it helps to have the videos. Like when you stick to one topic, you have that headline in the video. And now I'm gonna have this whole huge headline. I'm going to have to redo the headline tonight and just be like, hey, we talked about everything in the paranormal world. So no, I know we didn't, but yeah, guys, and let me know some of the stuff that you guys want to see coming up. Again, I've still been holding out on my reincarnation theory. I've been holding that nugget. I was gonna probably do it sometime, but again, I got delayed. So now I'm having to play catch up and redo the whole sickness episode that we filmed. But actually, I think now that we actually are streaming this, it probably came out better than when I actually filmed it, or when I went live and it crashed on me, I guess. I feel like we did a better job and had more participation anyway. So awesome, guys. I appreciate it. I don't see any other comments or questions right now. So I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. Remember, please share this, like and subscribe, but share this. Help get this word out there, because I do try to help people with as much education and theories I can throw at them. We'll see you in the next video, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks.